Okay, step 2, and that is figuring out carbs. And when I am referring to carbs, what I mean are the slow burning carbs. Your breads, pastas, potatoes, oats, things like that. I'm not talking vegetables. Vegetables are carbs, and depending on the meal plan that you're doing, like keto and things like that, they have you counting carbs for vegetables and this. But for this particular video, for step 2, I'm just talking about your breads, potatoes, pastas, and how to figure that out for your day. Now, for my meal plan, for the containers, I can only have 2 of this kind of carb. Okay, I can only have 2. And the goal is to eat as natural as you can, as if you just went out into the garden and picked it right off the vine. That is absolutely the best. So things like sweet potatoes, rice comes straight from the field. Brown rice has more fiber and will help you in digestion better than white rice, just so that you know. And beans, that is good. Even though we use canned beans, there's nothing in, I mean, it's fine. Black beans, quinoa, and oats. But things like bread, this has multiple ingredients in it, okay? They are allowed, but you want to get something that has multi-grain. And if you got sprouted grain, that would even be better. But we use Dave's Killer Bread, which is great. It has 21 whole grains in it, but 1 slice is 1 serving. So if you have a sandwich with 2 pieces of bread, that's 2 carbs right there. Like I said, did I already say that? My meal plan, I can only have 2 of these a day. Depending on your meal plan, maybe you can have 3, but for me, I can only have 2. Same thing like Kodiak pancakes. These are approved, but it is 1 small little pancake. It's a small one. And what you'll want to do is eat it with fruit, maybe some cottage cheese, which cottage cheese would be more of a protein, so that you're fuller, okay? So you don't want to stack up those pancakes, because that is and I'm talking small ones, every one that you eat, you're just adding another carb. You're adding a whole nother serving to your meal plan, okay? So, sweet potatoes, this is actually too large of a serving, so it should be cut in half. Like once it's cooked and it's cut in half, and then it smushes down a little bit, it will fit. This is what we call the yellow container, okay? Obviously it's yellow. And this is the size that your food should fit in, and you wanna be able to eat it to where it fits into this. White potatoes, I have them, but like this one isn't that big. I'm dropping things. But when I put it into the container, it's a little bit bigger than this. And honestly, I know it's so legalistic, and everyone's like, oh, we don't be legalistic, but I'm telling you, the more legalistic you are with your servings, the better the results you're gonna get. And this is what I would say. Like, see one of these little ones, it just fits in there. There's a little extra room, so maybe you could have 2 of them, I don't know. But I will say this, what I do is say that I'm gonna have this meat and I'm gonna have the vegetables with it. I try to get a lot of this and fill up on that, especially the vegetables, because you get to have a whole cup of vegetables, and then you get the serving size of meat, and your stomach is going to be full. And then you add this with that meal, and then you're not going to be craving so much of the carb, because you're eating multiple food groups in one meal. Okay, so that's that. Things like brown rice, quinoa, couscous. When you measure it, it has to be cooked. Okay, so you're eating cooked. All of those things. Same thing with oats. It needs to be cooked oats that measure into this yellow container. And this is what I do. Okay, this is how I do it. That's why I started. Step 1 is figuring out your dinners. And what you need to do is figure out, when you are eating the dinner, does it absolutely need a carb? Okay, so let's say that I'm eating my spaghetti sauce. If I absolutely need a carb, that means I'm gonna do pasta with it, or chickpea pasta, something like that. Or if I'm like, no, I don't want a carb there, I wanna save a carb for some other time during my day, then what I can do is make spaghetti squash. because this counts as a vegetable. Or if you spiral your zucchini, that's a vegetable. It's not a carb. So you've saved it, okay? So you just have to figure out for your dinners, do you need a carb with it? If it's a meal that it definitely needs some rice, maybe you want to eat some rice with the chicken and vegetables, and rice would just be good with it. That's great. But you can only have this size of a container with it. That's one serving, and then you have to mark it off. So that's one of your carbs. Okay, so you've done that dinner. Now we're going to remember for step one, our dinner is going to be lunch for the next day. Okay, so if I've had dinner and I've had that carb, then that means the next day my lunch will have that carb. Unless I decide, you know what, I'm not going to eat this with rice tomorrow. I'm just going to bypass the carb because I would rather have a carb at breakfast. I would rather have oatmeal for breakfast than to have a carb tomorrow for lunch. And so you have your carb at breakfast and then you don't have it for lunch. And then dinner, you know, you may have whatever you've chosen for dinner, that may have a carb. Okay, so hopefully I'm making sense. You're gonna look at all of your dinners and decide, do these need carbs? Like, do you have to have a carb to go with it? And you have to check that off. If you can have 2 a day or 3 a day or whatever, but if you have a carb at dinner, you got to check that off. And then the next day comes, and for lunch, because you're eating dinner for lunch, do you need to have that carb for that lunch? If so, you got to check it off. And then you got to look at dinner. Are you planning to have a carb at dinner too? Okay, so if you're having it for lunch and dinner, that's like for my meal plan, that's my 2 carbs. That's it. I can't have a carb for breakfast that morning because they are already slotted for lunch and dinner. Makes sense? But let's say that one day you're like, you know what? I really want to have oatmeal. I really want to have, you know, some kind of carb for breakfast. I want to make a pancake and put some cottage cheese and fruit and stuff. And I really want to have a carb for breakfast. Then you can't have them during the day according to your meal plan, right? So you got to check it off. So really look, our step one was to figure out those dinners, okay? Figure out those dinners. Go back and look at those dinners and see how you can tweak them with your carbs. Are you going to have a carb with it? Or can you forego it and save your carb for something else, you know, for the next day? Does it make sense? Hopefully it's making sense. So that's your dinner and your carbs. And I will tell you this, carbs are usually the thing, the yellow carbs, this type of carbs, usually not the vegetables. Usually people don't have a problem eating too many vegetables. But for these, that's where people can eat a lot more than they need. These are slow released energy carbs. So in other words, your body stores it. It's the kind of carb that you need for longevity throughout your day, and you don't need that many. Your vegetables are short carbs. They are short energy carbs. They give you like the spikes of energy. So that's why you need to be eating vegetables all day long, all throughout the day. So it will sustain your energy. Okay. And then the same thing, we'll talk about fruits as well in another video. Okay. So hopefully this is making sense. You have your dinners and now you have carbs. Okay. So figure out your meal plan and how you're going to apply this. And again, this again is off of the 21-day fix, portion fix meal plan. And yours may be different, but you still need to watch this kind of carb. Okay, there you go.